Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dedicated Show. Today, we're going to talk about all about how to master Tableau with Marleen Meier. She wrote this giant, awesome book on how to master Tableau in 2021. And guess what? Today, you actually have a chance to win one of these copies. Well, two people get to win one of these copies. So the rules of the game are, if you would like to enter the raffle to win, all you have to do is type in #Packt. I'm going to show you how that looks here. So as you're entering the session, just let us know where you're tuning in from. And also just type in #Packt so you can have a chance to win a copy of this book. Now, like I said, we will announce two winners. One winner will be announced in the middle of the session, and the second winner will be announced towards the end of the session. So best of luck to everybody. I'm really, really excited to bring Marleen up on the stage here today because I really can't wait to hear all about her journey of writing this book. I personally have a very good relationship with Tableau. It was the first tool that I ever used for data visualization. It truly was love at first sight for me when I got my hands on the software for the first time. It was probably about 7 or 8 years ago when I got into data visualization. I was given some data, I was given Tableau, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And now that I got, it's truly an honor to get to interview Marleen. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her up on the virtual stage here. Hello, Marleen, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Kate. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. First of all, congratulations on the book. I mean, it launched, like a week ago, if not less?
Yes, exactly.
You must be so happy.
I am. I'm happy. It's good to see it in print.
Yes, I'm sure it is. And I actually got to see it before it was in print, so it was even more of an honor for me to get to review this book in advance. So Marleen, for those who are not familiar with you, it'd be great if you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes, sure. So born and raised in Germany. I also studied there, and after my master's, I moved to the beautiful city of Amsterdam, where I worked for 6 years in analytics. And then 2 years ago, I moved to Chicago. And in my free time, I like to spend time with friends and family. And I also love sports, my favorite being gymnastics.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So what kind of gymnastics can you do? I'm surprised we didn't talk about this. This is cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I can still do a lot, but I like to do just recreational gymnastics from time to time.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just looking at the comments here. We have a lot of people from a lot of different places joining. The comments actually went so fast that it made me lose my place. A lot of people are just, saying Packt because they're trying to get in for the submission. And just to check, we currently have 41 entries. So, good luck. Good luck to everyone. Keep typing in Packt. We've got people from Ohio. I'm just trying to see where else people are joining from. Oh, Torben's here from Germany. There you go.
Hey.
A lot other people from Germany here. Look at that. You've got this German crowd here. I love it.
Nice.
We've got the UK. We've got Lithuania. So it's a nice, diverse crowd. I'm very glad that everyone here was able to join us. Definitely feel free to ask questions on Tableau about the book. We're here to talk to the live audience. So don't save your questions for the end. Go ahead and feel free to jump in with questions as we're having this conversation with Marleen. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Marleen, I want to know, because I'm currently writing a book, so I want to know what was your motivation? When was your moment of like, okay, I think I want to write a book? Like, how did that happen?
So it's a bit of a longer story, but going backwards to some years ago, I just started working with Tableau, and a few weeks later, there was a Tableau conference in London. So I thought, that might be a nice chance to speed up my learning curve. So I went to the conference and I was truly amazed. I thought, what is this community? The people that use Tableau are just so amazing. And the presentations I saw on stage, especially the use cases from other companies, they were the answers to all the questions I had. And I could never really find a tool that could do all of what Tableau can do. Yeah. And then I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could present our use case here next year? So I tried really hard. I learned a lot and did a lot of courses online. And 1 year later, I applied for being a speaker. And they actually picked me. So then 1 year later, I presented a use case about visualizing machine learning output at the Tableau conference in London.
Wow.
And after that, I got in touch with Packt Publishing. And so the first edition of this Mastering Tableau book was written by David. And then they were looking for an author for the second edition.
Mm-hmm.
And first I thought it's a scam, because I thought, no, it can't be that they would really want me to write about it. But then I started talking to them, and then it was clear to me. I always liked writing, so it wasn't really hard to make the decision. So that was 3 years ago for the second edition. And last year, Packt contacted me again and was asking if I'm interested in an update. It was in the midst of COVID, so it was it was a no-brainer. And I just really like sharing, because I'm so enthusiastic about the tool. So I really like sharing with other people what I learned, coming up with new use cases, new data sets, and you can just follow along.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell your enthusiasm definitely comes through in the book. And I absolutely love that story of you kind of learning Tableau, going to a conference and thinking to yourself, wow, next year I'm going to present, and then actually getting to present, and now co-authoring this book, the third edition. That's really amazing. Wow. So we do have questions that came in, but before we move on from the book, I just want to know personally, what was your favorite part about writing this book and your least favorite part about writing this book?
So the favorite part was definitely thinking about use cases that could help others, and also working with other data sets that I usually don't use in my normal life. So that's very nice. And then especially the use cases that you don't find online that often. So for example, the integration with Python, the integration with R. You find a lot on LODs, for example, but if you really look into a proper use case for Python integration, it's a bit harder to find. So that was my most favorite part. And the least favorite, I think, because there's never enough time. So now I still think, oh, this could have been better and that could have been better, but
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's never enough time for anything in this life. But when you said working with new data sets, I remember clearly having the same feeling when I was working at a company with their data that they wanted me to work with, and I was using Tableau. And you know how much fun it can be to get really creative. But sometimes when you're working in the corporate confinement of rules and regulations, they're like, no, you have to use this data, and it has to be this structure and this color. So I remember visualizing data sets from this Makeover Monday challenge, on the weekends or in the evenings, because I loved it so much, and kind of getting your hands on this random data where you can now apply these skills that you've learned and be able to be really creative. So I could definitely feel you where you're wanting to get your hands on new data.
Yeah, I love Makeover Monday. It was also what I started with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people start with that. It's just such a fun way. I remember just looking at other people's visualizations and being inspired. And for those who are not familiar with Makeover Monday, it's a weekly project. I think they've been going on for probably over 5-6 years now, where every Monday or Sunday night, I sometimes caught them early, they will post a new data set with the visualization, and you sort of have to make it over, give it a makeover, make it look better than it currently is. And if you go on Twitter, especially, and you look for the hashtag Makeover Monday, you can see a lot of inspiration of people get really creative. So I learned a lot from other people, just looking at what they're able to create, and then even going to Tableau Public, downloading what they've created and trying to learn the behind the scenes steps that they took. So let's take our first question here from Phil. So Phil is asking, how do you get into Tableau at first? Do you use Tableau Public? He's interested in improving his Tableau skills and not sure whether to invest in a license or not. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you can get a free Tableau version for at least 2 weeks, maybe 4. So I would definitely try that. I think in Tableau Public, you cannot create data sets without a license. You can upload them. Maybe they changed it, but as far as I know, you can just upload once you created something. So you would still need a license. If you're a student, I think you can also get discounts or free licenses. So I would definitely recommend to first start with a free trial, and then if you like it, see if you can get any discount or go for the license, yes. And then Makeover Monday, for example, could be an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, I do recommend starting with Tableau Public if they don't have the resources to commit, because there are a lot of things you can do with the public version as long as you don't use private data sets. If you use a public data set, then I think it's fine for the purposes of you can't save a Tableau Public workbook on your desktop. You can only save it publicly. So this is what I always warn people. Like, you can create a visualization of Tableau Public, but in order to save it, you have to publish it, which is great for someone who's maybe learning with some sample data that they found online and trying to build their Tableau Public profile. But if you're trying to use secure data, then yeah, like Marleen said, get the trial version to play around. I think they actually lowered their price recently, where it's not that crazy of an amount in terms of paying for your own license. I've paid for my own license. I've used Tableau Public, and I had a corporate license all at the same time at some point, because that's how much I love Tableau. But yes, those are all options, Phil, that you can try out. All right, let's see. Let's go to my question, and then I'll combine it with a question we just got from the audience. So the question I had prepared was your top tips for designing effective visuals, and then I'll pair that with how to choose the right chart based on data, right? So some of your tips for data visualization, and maybe in that statement, you can also tell us how do you choose the right chart based on data?
Yeah. So top tip for visualization, I would say go from top to bottom. Try to first show an aggregation of your data, and then make the user drill down by, for example, clicking on a bar chart or clicking on some aggregated value in your data set. Then I would say less is more. So try to use less colors, less charts, less data points, because it's just too overwhelming. And lastly, if it's work related, I would say if you have your own style, or maybe it's even the company's layout, try to stick to it, because it will be easier for your users to find back, for example, where you put your filters, how the drill down works. If you always change your logic in the dashboard, you always have to explain again or put some text how to use the dashboard. So I think that makes it easier for people to use newer dashboards of yours. And which chart to use. So I think there are some certain charts that work better for certain visualizations. For example, if you have two measures that you want to compare, it makes sense to use a scatter plot. If you have some dimension included, use a bar chart. But there's actually a really nice vocabulary of charts, or something it's called. I think it was initially published by a newspaper. But if you look on Tableau Public on the account of Andy Kriebel, then you can also find it. He made a Tableau dashboard of which charts to use with which data sets.
Okay, yeah, I think that's very helpful. I actually, probably 2 years ago, I also developed something called the Dedicated Chart Selector Guide, where basically it goes through, I think, 20 to 30 different charts and when to use which one and best practices. So I can send a link to that, and I know which one you're talking about too, Marleen. So I'll send the 2 links for people after the session to make sure that they get the chart selectors, because it to us, I think, for people who visualize data all the time, it's so obvious, right? You're like, well, of course you're going to use a bar chart here. Why would you even use anything else? But I'm starting to realize that this is not as common knowledge for people who are not visualizing data, all day long, that they might need a little bit of guidance of, when to use a line chart or a scatter plot, or in those rare cases, a pie chart. Actually, let's talk about pie charts, Marleen. What are your thoughts on pie charts?
Yeah, not that good. It's very hard to see what is going on. If you have maybe three dimensions in your pie chart and they are very distinct, it might be doable. But then a bar chart will always be better, because you can literally see next to each other which one is the highest, which one is the lowest. In a pie chart, it's always hard.
Yeah, I think a pie chart does get some, it doesn't get love from the data community at all, but I think there might be just a couple of use cases where it might be a good idea to use it. For example, if your values add up to 100% and you only have two things that you're comparing, then I actually think a pie chart will win over a bar chart, because you will clearly see which slice is bigger, right? When there's only two. Once you start throwing in 5 slices and they're all similar sizes and a lot of different colors, yes, it can get very, very confusing. And in that case, the bar chart will always win. So I do think there's like very, very few use cases where it might perform better.
Yeah, I agree.
So a question here. So I know you mentioned earlier that you gave this presentation on visualizing machine learning output. So Phil's asking, do you have any ideas for visualizing ML output? Can you share some examples? Do you have a link or anything to your Tableau session that you did at that conference that you can share, or any other resources you can point Phil into?
Yeah, so the video is online on YouTube from that conference. I have the link on my LinkedIn profile. And other than that, I would really recommend, if it's specific for Tableau, I would try to go to the YouTube channel and then search in the Tableau conference history of videos and see if you can find back anything related to machine learning. There will be more than just mine. So there's more out there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that. We've got a question here from Calvin. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with this, but he's asking about the Tableau certification. Do you think it's a worthwhile investment? Did you get certified?
Yes, I did. And I think it is. But it might depend a little bit on what you want to do with it. If you just want to prove to yourself that you have the skills, maybe you don't need to. But if you want to show someone else that you have the skills, it can come in very handy, because it is not that easy. So you really have to learn Tableau in order to pass. So I think it is really an investment if it helps you, for example, to find a job where they require Tableau knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I got the certification. I wanted to get it probably a week after using Tableau, because that's the kind of person I am. I was in the mode of, I need to get certified for no reason other than to get certified. No clue why. My job didn't require it. I wasn't looking for work, especially not with Tableau. But anyways, I remember trying to pass that exam. I did. And then I tried to take the professional exam. And at some point, I'm like, I don't know. At this point, I don't want to prove anything to anyone. So I stopped with the pursuit of certifications. But I definitely agree that it's a great way to stand out and really show your dedication to learning something. Personally and professionally, you will stand out, because it will show your potential employer, wow, this person is really serious. They're a professional Tableau certified individual. And especially if you want to get into training on Tableau and consulting on Tableau for other organizations, that could be a really powerful way to show that you're qualified. So
yeah, I agree. And actually, so I just said it's not necessary if you just want to prove it to yourself. But if that's the kind of person you are, because I totally understand that, but I just think, okay, I don't want to recommend anyone else to do that just because I want to do this. Yeah, but it's also a good test to know, because I remember at the beginning, I never knew how much more is there to learn. Am I already intermediate in Tableau, or am I still a beginner?
Right.
Because when you start, you don't know how much more is out there.
Oh, and there's so much. I remember this exam is not a simple exam. You really have to know Tableau to pass it. It's not just clicking around, especially that professional one where you actually have to design dashboards, and they have to be visually appealing and all that. That was definitely fun. All right, we've got so many questions, and in about 5 minutes, we're going to announce the first winner. So #Packt, everybody. Let's go to Sahil. His question is, what are the best sources to learn Tableau? I'm going to give him a hint. Hold on.
Yes, definitely the book.
Yes.
But also I used tableau.com/learn, I think it is. So I used their free material a lot. I also took courses with them. They were also very, very good. What I also like to do is to go to Tableau Public, find a dashboard that I really like, and try to reproduce it.
Yeah, I think those are great tips. I think starting off with something, like the book that you've written is really helpful to get everybody on the ground level of, okay, here's how you do everything. And then I would definitely recommend, like you said, going to Tableau Public, or just at some point I used to Google Tableau dashboard, like when I had a specific need for KPIs or finance or a budgeting dashboard. And I would Google images and you would get so many different examples, and then really just pulling from all that inspiration and trying to recreate it. A lot of times getting stuck and going to the help area and trying to figure out how they created it. But yes, I think getting that base groundwork of knowledge and then moving into getting inspired and trying to replicate what others have created is definitely a good way to learn. We've got a slightly different question here from Christiane, and she's saying, how would you approach suggesting changes to the company style if they can be improved in Tableau?
So for more Tableau users or starting in a company?
The way I'm interpreting this question is a company has a certain style of visualizing data. And I guess, like, for example, I worked with a company that used black background for all their visuals, right? And sometimes that was a little confusing, especially with the brand colors. It would sort of not stand out as much. So I guess it's maybe changing some of those visual standards that a company might have. If you have suggestions on how you can approach changing some of those styles.
Yeah, I think maybe it's not one fits all. Maybe if there's just a color palette and a certain layout. And what you could do is maybe you can talk to your Tableau server administrator and check with him which dashboards are clicked the most, which ones are used the most. Maybe you can go to the department that is not using dashboard X as much and ask them, why don't you use it? And just ask a lot of questions and get to the point of why are some used more than others, and then implement that kind of format for the rest.
I love it. You're using data analytics to see what gets clicked the most and all of that. Awesome. And we've got Phil providing Andy's visual vocabulary link here. So thanks for that, Phil. It's always great when the audience members can help out with links. All right. So Marleen, are you ready? We're going to give away a book right now. We've got Yay! We've got 85 entries. Guys, if you don't win this time around, we're going to do this one more time towards the end of the session. So I'm going to go ahead and click draw. And everyone who's submitted the hashtag Packt before will stay for the second drawing as well. But let's go ahead and see our very first winner. And I always like to write down the name. All right, Gareth, congratulations. Woo! We are going to follow up with a way to get the book. Ravi Jain from Packt usually does the follow-up. So thank you for playing. Thanks everyone for participating. We're going to go ahead and continue this conversation on a topic that I am really looking forward to learning more about. So I said, I started with Tableau. I spent most of my data visualization career with Tableau, but I've since moved on to become what I call product agnostic, right? I use Click, I use Power BI, I use Sisense, TIBCO, all of the above, right? Any software you can get your hands on, because I simply love learning about new products. So on that note, I've not been up to date with some of the more recent updates for Tableau. And you talk about something called a quick level of detail expression. And I remember when I was in Tableau land, I'm familiar with LODs, but what are quick LODs? I'd love for you to tell us more about that.
Yeah, so most of you might know that if you create a function with an LOD, you have to specify fixed, include, or exclude a certain dimension, and then a measure with a certain aggregation, min, max, sum, whatever. Quick LODs allow you to do the same with a fixed. So by default, it will create a fixed LOD by just dragging and dropping a measure on top of a dimension. So if you want to, I can share my screen quickly and show you how. I will just look on my other screen here.
Yeah, look, everyone else can see your screen, so I'm excited for this. So this is Tableau. Yay. I missed it.
Yay.
Really good.
So for example, if we have the ship mode and a certain segment, and then we also have the sales figures, but now we want to see the sales figures just for the ship mode, not divided over the segment. Then we need an LOD because we still want to have the segment in the view, but we want Tableau to ignore it. So what we can do is we can press either Control or Command, depending on Windows or Mac, on the measure, and then put it on top of the dimension. We get a new calculated field, this one.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at it, Tableau automatically created a fixed LOD for ship mode using the sum of sales.
Oh.
So if we now drag this one also in the view, you can see that it ignores the segment, and that's it.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that's super quick. That's really great.
Yeah. A second way to do it, it's very similar. You just select the two, you do right click, and then you can say create LOD calculation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And then it does the same.
Wow. I would never even think to drop one pill on top of the other, meaning like a measure on a dimension. I love learning something new in these sessions. So thank you so much for sharing this. Wow, this is great. I'm gonna remove the share screen for now. So can you tell me for your own personal, either playing around with data or for work purposes, how often do you use quick LODs or LODs in general?
Quite a lot. I think with the newest version of Tableau, it's a bit easier, but I usually have a lot of joins. So I duplicate rows, and then I just have to use LODs. Otherwise, I will show wrong measures.
I've definitely been there before.
Yeah.
When, those issues do happen. Just a quick question here from Sierra asking if a recording will be published. So Sierra, yes, the recording of the session will stay on LinkedIn. It's going to stay on YouTube and across all the social media platforms. I think the easiest way to find it is either just go back to this LinkedIn page that you're currently watching us on, or if you go to the dedicated YouTube channel and just type in Marleen Tableau, you should be able to find that. Okay, so we just got someone from YouTube saying hello. Started from Kenya with Tableau a week ago and loving the simplicity and power for visualization is amazing. I agree. I think it really is amazing. I think that's why Tableau has grown so quickly and has such a big community around it.
Yeah, especially if you come from Excel.
Yes, I think that's why it was so easy, because if you are comfortable in Excel and if you're comfortable with pivot tables, I've always called Tableau, for people who didn't know what Tableau was at all, meaning like, my mother who's never really used any of these tools before, I'd say it's like Excel on steroids, where it's like a pivot table on steroids, really, where you could just drag and drop and select columns and rows, but then you get these beautiful charts in the end. A question that takes us back to the certification briefly. Lee's asking, do you think 2 weeks is enough to get you ready for the exam? What do you think?
I think it really depends on your knowledge right now. It's definitely doable if you already have some experience, or if you have the full 2 weeks and nothing else to do.
Yes, I agree with that, especially that last statement. You can do anything in 2 weeks as long as you have the actual 2 weeks. Chances are you probably have life, work, and in between happening during those 2 weeks. But I think if you are passionate enough about the topic, I think it is possible, especially that first level one. I would say for the professional one, if you're just starting with Tableau, I don't think 2 weeks would be enough for you to really become that proficient with everything. But that desktop, that specialist, I think would probably be possible. Now we need to know. Keep us posted, okay? If you get this done,
please.
Let's see. A question from Uzair is asking, what's the difference between a dashboard and a story in Tableau?
So in a dashboard, you basically have one view. You click on the view, it might change. It might lead you to another page. But in a story, it's more like a more like a presentation style where you go from one slide to the other, and you can still have interactivity on each slide, but it is more meant to be going from the beginning to the end rather than having the user clicking and exploring themselves. It might be a very good way if you want to present, let's say, end of year results so that you can go over each page. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Do you tend to use more of the dashboards or stories in your day-to-day?
Dashboards.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually used the story for the purposes of really anything. I think stories are underutilized. I might have used it once to tell a story, but it's rare in the business world to have that need to tell this story in a different way. My main role was to build dashboards that other people can go in and use, like, drill down on their own region or their product line and get this like revenue goals and stuff like that. I think it definitely has a role, but in my opinion, it's underutilized by people, maybe because of the lack of understanding or maybe lack of an actual use case. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely interesting. All right. So the other thing I read about is Einstein Discovery. What is that? How does it help Tableau users? I know it has something to do with Salesforce because I used Salesforce and I know there's a Einstein Analytics, I think. So I'm guessing this has something to do with joining Tableau and Salesforce together.
Exactly. So you might all know Salesforce bought Tableau in 2019, I believe.
Yeah.
And from what I heard, the community long awaited that the two would join. And in Salesforce, you were able to use machine learning models without writing a line of code. And that functionality everyone really wanted to have in Tableau. So now the two can be combined, but you do need a separate license. Unless you already have the analytics license for Salesforce, then I think you can combine the two already. Otherwise, you might need an add-on for Tableau, which I think is $25 per user. But you better just check with your sales rep. What I also know is if you still want to try it out and you don't have Salesforce anywhere accessible, you can use the Trailhead learning path from Salesforce and get a free license and try how it works. So you have data in Salesforce, you build your machine learning model just by clicking, so no code. And then you can use an extension in Tableau to get the functionality in your dashboard. And it is all fully interactive. So even if you click on, let's say, a certain bar in your bar chart for a specific region, the model will adjust and will only show you the result for that region. And it's usually a prediction model. So you can, for example, say, how can I maximize my profit? And then it will tell you based on the other fields that you have in your data set.
Okay. Yeah, that seems really useful. That's really great. I love hearing about all these innovative things that Tableau is working on. So that's great. We've got a question here that I doubt we're actually going to be able to share screen, but maybe you can talk a little bit about the R and Python integration, or at least point people to the right chapter in your book, because I know you cover parts of that here.
Yes, I think it's the last chapter. And they also improved on that. I was really happy to see that while I was researching and writing the book. Yeah. It is easier now to connect. So for Python specifically, you would use TabPy, and you would connect to it on your laptop, let's say. And then in Tableau itself, you just click on a button that says connect. You put the correct port in a field, and then you will be able to use Python functions from a Tableau calculated field. So there is a specific function you have to call first, and then you can just type as if you were in your Python environment. What you can also do is you can pre-deploy models. There's also an example in the book. And then you can just call the model. So you don't have to do all the code in a calculated field. You can do it outside of Tableau and just call the class, let's say.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I remember trying to plug in, I think it was Python, back when I was just learning Tableau. I didn't have an actual use case for it. I just wanted to see, hey, can I plug this in together? Because I think it's just it's fun. And yeah, Robert says they saved the best for last in the chapter. So yes, it is the last chapter. I just checked. Let's see. Just trying to see. We had a lot of questions come in. Let me see. Oh, Deepak is just saying things about stories is really a collection of dashboards and sheets as story points. So thanks for your input there. There was a question here I can't find anymore, but it was around our dashboards dead. And I think Kimberly Wright was the one who asked it, but then people typed in Packt so many times, I completely lost the comment. So what do you think, Marleen? Are dashboards going away, or do you think they're going to stick around?
I think they will stick around. I think it is so helpful for people to look into the data they use on a daily basis and not being dependent on IT. Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, it will be even more instead of less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think dashboards definitely have a place in a lot of companies where you want people to go and make decisions based off of data. And people are just not great at looking at a database and saying, what insight do you have? They kind of need to visualize some of that data in a very effective manner in order to see the insights that they're looking for. And on the note of dashboards, I remember back in my days, I used to build very complex dashboards that sometimes took a while to load, right? So you spend sometimes weeks building the perfect dashboard or dashboards. You present it and everyone loves it. And now it's time for people to go on the server and start using them, but they click on it and they're in a meeting and it's slow or it's loading for a while. And in corporate world, a 10-second load time might as well be an hour, where everyone's like, is this broken? Where's my data? So any tips on improving the performance of dashboards in Tableau?
Yeah. First of all, if you use a database as your data source, I would definitely recommend you talk to the database administrators and check for possible partitions or an index that they might have set up and you are not aware of. Because if you use those to filter on in your Tableau dashboard, it will be so much faster. Then filters in general, and then put them as a data source filter. If you don't need every region or every day, get rid of that data before you start building your dashboard. Try to avoid 100 joins. Try to have less data sets in your connection. And if you cannot make that work because the database is just structured in a different way, then use Tableau Prep and prep everything together into one data set and then push it to the Tableau desktop. Sometimes what I do is, instead of a join, so I don't join, but I still need the two data sets and I cannot use prep for some reason, I try to use a blend so that I don't have the whole data set every time I load a page, but only on certain occasions I need the second data source and then I just blend it in. Using extracts helps instead of live connections, then that will definitely help. Yeah, I think those are my two go-tos.
Yeah, and I know I think you have a whole chapter, right, committed to improving. Yes, so guys, check out the book. That chapter can definitely help along your journey of improving your performance of your dashboards. We've got a question here for you. Do you only work with Tableau or do you use other data viz tools?
At the moment, I only use Tableau.
Yeah. Short and sweet. I love it. You're like, Tableau is the thing I use. Okay, question from Leah. Do you have any tips and tricks for embedding dashboards into dashboards?
Oh, good one. So Tableau dashboard into dashboard, or like on a company's website, for example?
I'm assuming it's a Tableau dashboard into another Tableau dashboard. I've actually seen some sort of use case for this. This was years ago. I'm not even sure why we were looking into that, but I remember it wasn't as straightforward as you would want it to be.
So I think if you already have published one of the dashboards, then you can use an URL action because your Tableau server will have an URL. So then you just build your second dashboard you use your UL action, and then you just load the first dashboard into the second one.
Yes. Okay, you reminded me. That's absolutely what I was looking into before. We used that URL function because I started thinking, how did I even? There's no way to bring in a dashboard into another dashboard. But yeah, with the URL you can. You're right. Yeah, no, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the use case I was thinking about is what I saw once on Tableau Public was about the most liked sushi roll. So you could click on the sushi you like the most, and then it would somehow send the data to a website, and then that website would be shown again. So that was also a dashboard in a dashboard. So immediately after clicking on the California roll, you would see that you increased it by 1.
Well, thank you, Marleen. Now I want sushi. So great, great. And it's too hot in New York. I try not to order sushi when it's really, really hot, because you don't know how it's delivered. By the time it gets to you, the fish might be, But anyways, that's a topic for another day. Leah had another question here, and it's around any tips for geospatial visualizations.
Yeah, so there's actually also a more recent feature that is very nice. So you can now put layers on top of layers. So that means you're not dependent on one map anymore to visualize everything. You can visualize one thing on the first map, then you put another map on top of it, and you visualize, for example, a starting point and an ending point. You use 2 different layers, and then the distance between the two can be another layer. And that is, I think, that is very, very nice. It really will help you for geospatial analytics. There's also use case. I think the use case in the book is about you want to buy a house somewhere in Chicago, but you have certain criteria. So that criteria, one of them will be that you don't want to be further away than 15 miles of some place. And then you can just do that with the layers on top of layers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. We've got a question here. I think it's more of a cultural question from Gabriel. He's asking, how can you make the shift from spreadsheet style reports to dashboards? I'm assuming this is internally at an organization where they're not maybe using dashboards yet.
Yeah, I think you need to set up a user group, preferably having one person of each department that is excited about dashboards, and then a lot of education. So if you have one person, for example, from the finance department, and that person can meet up with the other people from the company, let's say on a monthly base, they can discuss developments, they can discuss the dashboards they have built, then it's already the small group that is very knowledgeable. If they then build something that adds a lot of value to the whole finance group, that person can go into that group. So it is kind of a bottom-up approach, and I think that works best, at least what I have seen. What you can also do is maybe make a mandatory training for everyone that starts new at the company and say, okay, this is where we have our dashboards. And then already from the beginning, they will learn that they can use Tableau better rather than Excel sheets.
Yes, and I think sometimes seeing is very powerful, right? Letting people see the possible, showing them some really cool dashboards. At least that's what worked in one of the organizations I worked for. We had built some dashboards in one department, and then it was kind of seen by others, and they're like, "Wow, we want that. What is that?" Right? Like they kind of knew it was Tableau, but for them, they felt like it would be too difficult to use. When in full transparency, I think it's so much easier than Excel, because you just click a few buttons and you can create a really cool dashboard. Where in Excel, you'd spend a lot of time formatting. So I love the user group idea as well, where you can actually have like-minded people together and help spread that message. I think eventually we will move away from Excel sheets, but I think it's still the number one used tool right now for data analysis, which is.
I also think it still has value.
Yeah,
it is not replacing Tableau, but it might just be an ad hoc use. And Tableau dashboards are more for everyday updated data, and you see what's going on.
And Excel, actually, I mean, it is powerful. It can actually do so many new things that I wasn't even aware of until last week. I was uncovering some new functionality and charting that they have available. So it's going to be interesting to watch this whole space over the next few years for sure. We'll take a couple more questions. So Kevin is asking, what careers or roles do you think are, I guess, common for Tableau?
I think everyone who's doing some kind of operational work can use it, because they can just check what is going on. So to build it, but then even all the way up to the management board to see what are the numbers. Let's imagine the CEO sitting in the train, for example, in the morning, going to work, checking his phone, seeing, oh, my numbers look good today. I can just log into my Tableau server and see the metrics that someone else built for me. So I think the management level is more the viewers, so the users of the dashboards, but everyone who does something with data. And I think in the current world, those are many people in a company. It will help them. It will also help them better understand what they are working on, because they can see, what is this measure? What is if I do this? And I think everyone should be encouraged to just start using it, at least to just play around with it, drag and drop, and make their lives easier.
Yes, and you can visualize data that that you're actually interested in. I remember at some point I was visualizing my running data, right, number of miles that I ran per day and my pace. So you don't have to reserve. And I use Tableau Public for something like that, because it's not private information, and I don't care if it gets out there. But it was definitely fun to visualize and see the progress in a chart. We've got a really fun question here from Andre. So he wants both of us to answer. What are the biggest mistakes you see with how dashboards are presented? So maybe think of one dashboard. You don't have to name names, right? But a dashboard that was maybe not as effective.
So I kind of get the creeps when I see dashboards that still have a lot of lines, a lot of additional stuff that is just not necessary. Then I feel like, oh, this looks so not done. It looks like you just started working on it. So please, it is not about a skill set. It is just remove everything that you don't need, leave a little bit of space in between, and just make it a bit more clean. Mm-hmm. Colors is also, like neon colors or anything like that is not what I like to see.
Yes, I definitely agree. A cluttered dashboard can make your audience a bit more confused as to what they're looking at, and color is absolutely important. I think my example I'd provide is there. This was not my example. Someone shared this with me, but this person is working with a company who had a brand that was all red. Okay, so just picture any brand icon and it's red. And they were giving a presentation of like us versus competitors, and everything about us, which is that company, was red, and everything about their competitors was like blue or green or something. And to them, it was great because they're using brand colors. But, the perception when they gave that presentation was like, wow, we're terrible across the board when compared to all of our competitors because we are red. So I think you have to be really careful. Yes, stay within brand, but sometimes when all your numbers look red, well, it might not look great unless you live in China, where I guess red is the color that shows progress. But you definitely have to be careful with what people associate with different colors.
Yeah. What I also see a lot is that people really want to use a chart that you cannot use that often. Let's say a bubble chart.
Yeah.
In most cases, a bar chart will just be more effective. It might be the boring one, but just stick to it, because it will not help your users to see bubbles that are almost all the same size.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I've been asked to use like a donut chart or a bubble chart to spice things up. I'm like, what are we spicing up? What are we doing here? So yes, Barbara says she's been there as well with red, with brand colors. Okay, interesting. And yeah, Leah says, ew, I'm not sure to which example, your example or my example or both. But yes, that can be difficult. So we're almost at the time to announce our second winner. And Marleen, before we get to that, I want to ask you, so you love Tableau, clearly, you've presented at their conference, you've written a book on the topic, you use it all the time. is there a feature that you would like to see in the next couple of years that Tableau, doesn't have yet?
Difficult one. Most recently, I really wish they would have a distribution function in the calculated field. So that's a very small thing, but that is something I would like to see. I would also hope that it gets a bit better with the live data or near to real time. I think the Tableau server is not really meant to be used for real time data yet, but that would be something that would be great. Usually, if I run into an issue and I Google it, there will be a workaround because the community is just so amazing that someone has come up with a solution. So I never really had a problem of I really cannot get it done. It might be a workaround, but yeah.
Yeah, there typically is a workaround. It's not always very straightforward. Like here, Robert's saying special shape charts would be nice. Okay, interesting. Yeah, there's always something people want. People always want more. I think Tableau does hit a lot of, cover a lot of the needs of the data visualization community, but it's always fun to see what more they can come up with. We've got a lot of people who have typed in #Packt. We've got 98 entries. It's a little fine print here. And I'm going to draw again when we hit 100. So guys, 2 more people, and then I'm going to hit draw. While we wait, Marleen, I want to ask you, where can people go to continue the conversation with you if they got more questions? And also, where can they get the book if they don't win right now?
So you can definitely reach out on LinkedIn. I think that's the easiest. And to get the book, so you can go to Amazon, you can go to Packt directly to the Packt publishing site. You can also go to Barnes and Nobles. Those are. I'm also on Tableau Public, obviously, but if you want to message me or have any questions, then it's best to reach out on LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, guess what? We hit 100 while you were saying that.
Oh, nice.
We have 101 entries. I'm going to go ahead and draw again. Good luck, everybody. And I still have not added a drumroll soundtrack, which I have to work on getting. So pretend there's a drum roll, and the winner is Renato Alejandro. Yay! And the name is cut off. Apologies. That's I guess StreamYard doesn't have the capacity for longer names, but I will make sure we follow up with you. Congratulations, and thank you everybody for participating. Ravit here is providing the link to your book if people want to go ahead and check that out. I highly recommend it. And Marleen, it's definitely been a pleasure. I feel like I could do this for hours and hours, talk to you about Tableau and data visualization. I know we've already gone over time, so I really appreciate you sticking around.
Thank you. It was fun talking to you, and thanks for all the great comments in the chat. So what I said, if you have any more questions, I'm not sure if I could answer everything properly. Just reach out to me, and I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for joining, and thank you to everyone in the audience for your very active and engaged participation. I wish everybody a really great rest of your day and your week, and I will see you all online. Thank you.